Well, yes, good morning, so to speak, poor guys. Barca finally did it because they're absolutely right. They're totally right. They're being mistreated, and you have to understand them. Not winning the Champions League was blamed on the referees, yet in Spain, the referees treat us very well, right? Anyway, so Barca's statement, that formal complaint, which probably went straight into the drawer of formal complaints, unless in this case Seferin listens to Laporta again, and that's even though Laporta isn't currently the president of Barca yet. He already won the elections. He'll be president again in the summer, but well, there you have it, right? There he is in the shadows, still there, and maybe he'll listen to him again. Like that time when he ended up not shelving it, suspending it because the case it's not shelved, it's not closed. The Negreira thing, which Seferin once said was the most serious thing he'd ever seen in his life. And suddenly, hey, he went to have lunch with him in Slovenia. And I said, nothing, come on. Okay, great, nothing. We'll leave it here. We invite you to the Champions League. I always say if they hadn't let the case expire, Barca would have been relegated to the second division. The RFEF and Red and UEFA or Seferin wouldn't have invited Barca to that Champions League, and then everything would have changed, all because the case became time-barred under a badly written law, right? But anyway, let's keep trusting in the ethics process, which is still underway. So Barca is complaining here to UEFA about that specific action, the one with the Atletico de Madrid goalkeeper, with Musso, with Puvil. And we have more examples there of very similar situations where, well, no penalty was called, but they didn't even consider it. By the way, since I have it here handy and I don't want to forget later before that. These guys still complain, even though they've been in the Champions League from 92 until 2026, which is basically the entire history of the Champions League, because before that it was called the European Cup, which Barca first won, by the way, in 1992. This is the refereeing balance of red cards plus penalties made by Maketo Olari. Total credibility. He's been doing this nearly his whole life. Barcelona plus 45 watch out, red cards plus penalties, officiating balance. That is, red cards shown to Barcelona and to the opponent. Penalties for and against. Barcelona plus 45 Bayern Munich, 40 plus 40 Real Madrid, plus 36 Barcelona is still better at this too. In the Champions League, we go back to 92, but oh well. They have no shame, man. After what we've seen, I mean, the biggest robberies, the biggest ones we've seen in the Champions League have a name, the name of a referee, right? Obrevo, it's Stark, and also with Mourinho's accent. Obrevo, it's Dark de Bleveke, Stark, Deblecker. What was the other one? Busaka, right? That's it. Well, Aiteken, but when Mourinho said that, the Aiteken incident hadn't happened yet, right? Look, this one was German, like we said yesterday, since Flick was thanking Germany because the VAR guy was German. Well, here, Aiteken was German and of Turkish origin, by the way, and what a mess he made, right? Anyway, in the biggest robbery. Well, that one really takes the cake. The biggest robbery, competing closely with the one at Old Trafford by Ovrebo. Ovrebo. All right, and now another play has surfaced. Argentine League. Look, this guy does the same thing as Musso, and the other one does the same as Puvil. Exactly the same. He gives it to him, boom, and the other one grabs it with his hand, okay? Because he's going to take it from the corner of the box. Okay, the guy's going to take the kick. In the corner, and there's no one there. Absolutely no one complaining about anything. No one. And the referee is right in front. Look at the referee. Look at the referee. Calmly, he sees everything. Really? Better than anyone. And there he doesn't call anything. But that's because he knows the goalkeeper is giving it to his teammate so he can take the kick. That's it. Because he asked for it, just like Puvil asked Musso for it, right? About that, and we've seen the image, and about whether Mila was inside the box. He could have been stepping on the line by just a little, but he could have been stepping on the line. Well, we've already talked about this in previous videos, but come on, they're complaining about something. They're grasping at straws here, which is absurd. And all because they lost, and lost badly, right? But hey, the second leg, we'll see. For losing badly, someone who lost really badly, well, they all lost really badly, right? Because they were protesting the indefensible. But here with Fermin, you'll see someone needs to talk to him. Someone should talk to Fermin, right? It wasn't like that. That's not what they were saying to Vinicius. There goes Fermin, boom. Almost. Well, that's why it's padded. Although there have been cases, oh my, of athletes who think they can kick or headbutt it. There's an extreme, unfortunate case of someone who thought that area was soft and they've broken their foot. Or in the case of a basketball player, some of you might remember, I think he was Balkan. Well, he ended up paraplegic for headbutting the part where the basket is attached, right? That base, which he thought was padded, but this happened in the 90s, and the guy ended up, yes, in a terrible situation. I mean, just imagine the headbutt he gave. He threw his whole body into it. I just remembered, it's one of those things you can't forget, no pun intended. But then there's what happened with Furman. Can you imagine if Vinicius did that? Huh? Can you imagine if Vinicius did something like this? People would say it's a disgrace that he's a bad sportsman. Have you seen this in any media outlet? And if you have, did they make a big deal out of it? No, right? Well, it's the same as always. But hey, we shouldn't lose hope because some media outlets, some of them, are starting to report what we've been saying for a long time. And look, I don't want to take all the credit either. Futbolog.com, Hechicero, Caballos Lois, Juan P. Frutos, who else? Well, Maquetolari, of course, we just saw it, and a lot of people who have been working on data, the lopsided refereeing balance, and so on, in the ASS newspaper. Now they're actually talking about the plus 31 in Spain and minus 7 in Europe regarding Barca's red card balance. This comparison between Europe and Spain. What a strange thing, right? In the last 10 years. Well, yes, at least they're asking themselves about it now, right? At least it's part of the conversation. I swear to you, that, and this really happened, it might have been 2 years ago or something like that. Once during a talk show on El Partidazo de Cope, suddenly someone mentioned something about referee balance. I think it was Melco Ruiz or Arancha Rodriguez. And then Monica Marchante said, "What do you mean by refereeing balance?" And they said, "No, come on, please. The Negreira case had already exploded. The Barcelona Negreira case, the huge scandal, right?" I mean, all the suspicions were already being confirmed, backed by numbers and shocking historic statistics, not just isolated snapshots, but overall pictures, right? We're discussing multiple seasons, essentially the 21st century, correct? Well, now it comes up, and the sample is 10 years. The sample is 10 years because you already know what has happened in the 21st century. In Europe, plus 12. 12, Real Madrid. The one from, sorry, it was plus 12, right? Oh no, I had the drawing here. I've shown it to you so many times, but I can't remember now. Well, anyway, Real Madrid and Barcelona are tied in terms of red card balance like this, plus 12 for one, plus 11 for the other, okay? Tied as it should be, and that's even though Madrid has played more matches. Keep that in mind in recent years in the Champions League, and then Barca in Spain, plus 69 for Barca, plus 1 for Madrid, or minus 1. I don't even remember what we're at, and plus 1, minus 1. Well, yes. And so now, well, the media are starting to ask questions. But, and this is the last aside I'll make in this video, and it's the last thing already, it turns out that there have been others who have made the reverse journey. And unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because I like how he comments, because honestly, he's a guy who knows about soccer because he was a Real Madrid player. And also because I met him personally. When I worked at Marca TV, he came to a couple of shows, and honestly, Álvaro Benito made a very good impression on me as a person. I always tell you the same thing. I don't want to mix the person with the professional side, okay? If Álvaro Benito ever sees this, he can take it however he wants, okay? What I'm saying is that as a person, I liked him. I only got to know him a little. I don't really know him that well or anything, right? And then also professionally, I'll say it again, I like his soccer analysis, and I've even used him as an example sometimes when he talks about the strengths and weaknesses of Madrid, analyzes the opponents and so on. But what he's going to say here is, I mean, absolutely, how can I put it? No, obviously it can't be understood. Incomprehensible. Coming from a Madridista, absolutely incomprehensible. Because Álvaro Benito said this the other day on El Larguero about whether Madrid throws away league titles and so on. I want to remind you that in several videos I've said, wait a minute, the huge asterisk is that Barca has played with a safety net, and we've been screwed over during the years when Barca was paying a senior refereeing official. That doesn't mean there isn't a reason, even if it's smaller than this other one, which is much stronger, for why Madrid hasn't won 2 leagues in a long time and so on. It's because there's often a lack of motivation in this and a problem in the locker room, and a structural problem in Madrid. I'm convinced it exists, and they pick which matches to play. Even Arbeloa said to his players, "Are you choosing matches, bastards?" Okay, this is undeniable. As for why Madrid hasn't won as much in Spain as in Europe, well, that's definitely not the main reason, not by a long shot, because there's a much more important factor, which is, as I said, that Barça paid a top refereeing official for more than 2 decades, right? But this is also a factor. And it's good that Álvaro Benito says it. The fact that he doesn't even mention the other thing as we're comparing it to what he said years ago. Here's what he said on El Larguero yesterday. I'll speed it up since it's a bit long and you'll understand it fine. And I say, why can't this last forever?
And about Mbappe, I have to ask again because you said something similar to Arbeloa. If on Friday against Girona, you see the same lack of defensive effort, which has been a season-long issue with Kylian, who wouldn't play him? Any coach would start Kylian. All 100 out of 100 would. But of course, that commitment that Arbeloa mentioned yesterday, this is the Mbappe we always want to see. Would Madrid fans understand if he goes back to holding back on those efforts, that defensive commitment he showed yesterday? Because it's not the match against Bayern, because that's kind of the shadow that's always hanging over Kylian.
But this has been Real Madrid's unfinished business for many years. Why are there players like Modric who have surprisingly left Madrid with more Champions League titles than league titles? How do you make sense of that? Well, the explanation is that Real Madrid struggles to be consistent. They struggle to be a team. They struggle to be a team. To win league campaigns, you must be a team, work as a team, and have clear patterns of behavior where even on the days when your talent isn't at its best, you win because your collective behavior is very good, and obviously because you have more talent. That's true for 90% of league opponents. If your team does its job, you can still win even when you play poorly. And Real Madrid in the last 12 or 15 years, I don't know how far back I can go, has really struggled to be consistent and to be a team. What happened? They've had such strong players that when focusing on short tournaments or key moments, they've delivered outstanding performances unmatched by any other European team. It's something almost unexplainable. We've tried to explain it here many times, but it's something that's almost unexplainable. I mean, how can this team be so good? They're able to win so many Champions Leagues and show their best side in the toughest situations, but then in the easiest matches, that's where they lose the league titles, right? Well, that's the challenge they still have, their behavior as a team.
Well, Alvaro, what you say is true in some ways, and actually, I agree with you. What's incomprehensible is that you don't even mention what you used to claim years ago when you didn't work for Movistar. And only you will know, Álvaro Benito, only you know. Man, why don't you say now what you used to say back then? Only you know. We can imagine why. I'm not gonna say it because I think it's obvious, okay? And because you guys, well, maybe you think the same as I do, sorry. But it's just so obvious, man. It's so obvious. Back then, Punto Pelota, or El Chiringuito, as it was already called, didn't have the kind of relationship with the league that it has now, I should add. And Álvaro Benito was much freer. He didn't work for Movistar back then. Things changed a lot afterwards, right? This is what Álvaro Benito was saying. How many years ago? Well, maybe 12 or 13 years ago or something like that. Could be. Look, or maybe not that much. Sorry, not that much. Maybe this is from 2015 or 2016 could be. Wait a moment. There's no volume here now.
It's the only team that never concedes penalties.
So they're making history with stories? It is
the only team in the world that wakes you up.
When they didn't call penalties for Barça, yes.
The coach tells him in the box, don't touch opponents or do anything that might look like a penalty. 74 matches with no penalties called against them. Unbelievable. And I think it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And I'm not saying that what happened today hurts some more than others. Honestly, I hadn't paid attention to these plays, but I do think it was a penalty on Suarez too. But 74 matches without a penalty called against them. I mean, they're the only team in the world that doesn't concede penalties. Someone tell me the secret. I want that for my teams. Now Mascherano's gone, who they said never. I want that for my teams.
It might also be because their opponents rarely enter the box.
They probably don't concede penalties, yes.
It's just that he was really good here because he's a guy who's pretty sharp and also speaks and argues very well, of course. I get that I was free back then. If he was watching, how would you know whether I'm free or not? Seriously, Álvaro, stop messing with me. We didn't know yet. We didn't have the proof that Barça had paid a senior refereeing official. We suspected it, but we didn't know. And now it turns out that it's known, and you don't bring it up, and you never talk about it anymore. Never. how you used to talk about it with that experience. Everyone knows about Negreira, but you're at Movistar. Obviously, just imagine your boss is Pelo Pincho. He won't like hearing this. Let's see if it's clear. Yes, he understands. And I have to say something. Back in the day, when Álvaro Benito was being paid to speak in the media and he belonged, he was a coach for a Real Madrid reserve team, and Madrid fired him for criticizing and for exercising his freedom of expression. Back then, I thought, unlike many people, no, quite the opposite. I would even get criticized for this, but now, no. And I did get criticized back then. I said, damn, well, that's not right. That's not right. But at the same time, you're also beholden to a club. I mean, it's true that things are a bit tense there. But he was brave there. He was brave. Damn, so be brave now, Álvaro. Be brave now. How can you talk about Madrid throwing away league titles without mentioning the most important thing? It can't be. It can't be. No way. I like this version better. Because also, I'll say it again. If Álvaro really went all out now and was free, damn, we'd have a really good version of someone who would be pissed off at everything, just like everyone else, right? And also very good because he makes his case and explains himself very well. It's a shame. I wish you all the best. Give it a like if you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to the channel, comment, share, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Bye.